Britt, as I live and breathe, I mean, this has been a long time coming. I mean, we talked on Pretty Problems, but I wanted to do something a little bit more elongated because you are just a dynamo.
Thank you so much, Joey. That feels really nice to hear.
I mean, you're about the busiest lady in showbiz. And is it self motivation? Is it a training that keeps you motivated?
I think it's a combination of both. That's a really great question. I think my theater background is what I attribute to my work ethic
Hmm.
because how I came up in theater was that everybody has their job, but it's a real collaboration. So we met on Saturdays and we built the set together. I knew how to hang lights and run the soundboard. I stage managed when I wasn't in the show. I think there was just this spirit of like all in and work until it's done. And also, it's the work that you love. So why wouldn't you? And I really carried that with me into my work in TV and film. And even if I'm not a part of a big part of a production, let's say I'm a guest star or I'm coming in as a supporting, I feel like I understand that the picture is so much bigger than just my place. And I want to come in and be as helpful, cheerful, like ready to go on it as possible. And I think that all comes from theater.
Yeah, I'm from a theater background too, and
You are?
I listen. My Harold Hill would make you cry.
I was gonna say you have to tell me your favorite role. Oh, that's
Um, and I
beautiful.
played I played Don Quixote. I played the part, and so I
We've
came
got
up
a
from
leading man right here.
what?
We got a leading man right here.
No, not anymore. I'm just now. I'm usually cast as a bartender. Someone bald and wiping a bar off.
You
But
got drinks.
as a kid, what it taught me was everybody's got hands, so everybody helps.
Yes. Yeah.
And whether you're directing or sweeping the stage, you honor the stage every time you're on it. You take care of the stage, and it's just a beautiful life, and it draws people in because of that camaraderie, that old theater troupe mindset.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, the ghost light tradition is so beautiful to me. I mean, it's also very practical to make sure, nobody trips on anything, but really just the idea that you leave the light shining, that I love this idea that you just came up with of like, it shows caretaking, right?
You
Like
know,
this is our space and there's a great respect for it even after we leave.
do you miss live theater?
I do. I didn't for a while personally because I did it in high school and then I went to school. I got my bachelor's degree. I had like I was political science and theater. Had a moment where I thought I wanted to be a lawyer. My father quickly course corrected me. He was like, no, you're just scared. Do the thing that you want to do. But I went immediately into grad school because I did feel like I wanted to always do the thing that I wanted to do. So to me, getting an MFA meant I'll always be involved in the arts. If I have a master's degree, I can always be teaching, I can always be around, I can be publishing, that kind of thing. And so I did that hardcore and, did a residency at the Shakespeare Theater. And after that, I thought, man, I think I want to try something different just for a little while and let's see if I like it. And it was TV and film. So I moved to California. I'd never been there. I'd never done TV or film. It was a whim. I think it was a really conscious choice at that time in my life to try something different. And so I actually had to make a rule for myself that I wasn't allowed to do theater when I got to LA because I
Really?
loved it so much. But it was also my safety blanket. It was my safe space. It was the thing I knew how to do. And I was afraid that I wouldn't grow if I didn't take away a little bit of that safety blanket. So I recently have started thinking about being back on stage. And that's not entirely true. I'm not telling the truth here. You know what? Part of my reason that I wanted to move to California was that I was seeing all these wonderful actors go to Broadway who we knew from TV and film. Scarlett Johansson and Liev Schreiber starring in View from the Bridge, right? It's like they want names to sell tickets. And I wrote my thesis on this play that was written in 1928 by Sophie Treadwell called Mackinac.
Hmm.
And I loved it. And Fiona Shaw starred in the revival of it in the National Theater, and no one had done it No one had done a revival of it since 1928 in America. And I thought, you know what? I'm gonna go to Hollywood. I'm gonna build a name for myself, and I'm gonna reopen this play. And I think a couple of years into me being into Los Angeles, or it might have been like right away, Rebecca Hall did the very same thing. She was like, I'm gonna reopen Mackinac, because it was a play that hadn't been done, and it's a really beautiful play. So I was thinking about theater, but I did kind of hold that higher vision and pulled myself back a little bit just so I could be a little scared, you know? I think good art comes from just that razor's edge of pushing yourself into being uncomfortable and seeing what can come from that.
I had a professor tell me that he said you have to always be uncomfortable with the next project, because it's growth. It's a feeling of overcoming something.
Yes, it's growing pains, right? And leaning into that discomfort allows you to discover new things about yourself. And I think it also gives you such a sense of pride when you do get to the other side of it. You're like, oh, I did that. And that is important to your growth as a human being, you know, regardless of your vocation.
It's true.
And it's a bit addictive, if you know what I mean.
I do know what you mean. Was there a bit of culture shock when you moved from Alabama to Los Angeles?
Huge. I mean, fashion, I was like, oh, because I went to grad school in Florida also. So it was like all just like sundresses, flip-flops. Like, I had no idea, you know, what people were wearing. Dating culture was entirely different. I was so shocked. You know, in Alabama, if you go on 4 dates, it's like, oh, you're together. And here it's like, oh, everyone's dating like 7 people. Oh my gosh. But like, it's still very intimate and yet casual at the same time. That was kind of the California motto for dating. So that was really interesting. I loved it though. I love being outside. I love the sunshine. I love being able to connect with people in a way that I felt like New York is so much about the grind. And I respect it so much. And my friends who are still there are like, they are fueled by it. But I had a moment where I thought it might actually wear me down. I don't know. I haven't tried it, but I'm going to try this other thing first that is totally outside of my comfort zone in every way. And then New York felt familiar to me because I did have friends there. My aunt lives there, so I got to visit her a lot growing up, which is when my love of theater was born. So it did feel a little bit like a cop-out at the time, but I stayed, and it's so cliche, but the weather's amazing. Well, you hear no all the time, you know, like when you're working this hard and rejection is your number one companion, it's really great to walk outside and just take a hike.
This portion of Screen Chatter is presented by VP Dental. Check out our great dental plans starting at just $16 per month. I'm so proud of you with Pretty Problems, because that's something that you created for yourself, you know, and nobody told you can't do that. You know, it's such a beautiful, beautiful film.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It was an absolute labor of love, but I say that it's more complicated than that because of what you're saying. Like the soundbite is, it was a labor of love. Yeah. The real, you know, taking the elevator down 4 stories is that it was built off of hearing no all the time. It was built off of seeing our friends who were incredibly talented do work week after week in class that is goosebump inducing, tear bringing, gorgeous work, side splitting laughs. And they're not, you know, they can't book 6 lines on NCIS. And it just felt like, man, like, can we do anything about this? Even if it's just our little summer camp, it can be an opportunity to ask more of ourselves, to step outside of who gets to say yes and who gets to say no. And it ended up as an experiment that went so much better than we ever expected.
It's true. I mean, you know, no is an interesting word because you get enough no's and people that I've known, who are now very successful actors, they're dear friends of mine, always have that in the back of their head that maybe they're not good enough. And that's why they like to diversify and do projects that they can control and they can say yes.
Oh man, my mood changed so much when Michael and I started working on this script and I started producing. And that was my main, like, I did all the other things that I normally do, but that was my main energetic focus. And I just like, oh, wow, I'm so proud of myself right now. What is that about? Oh, right, because I'm saying I'm gonna go do this thing and then I get it done and I see an immediate result and it feels so good. And the ego's not attached to it in the same way that it is as an artist. And you try to keep ego out of the game as much as possible. But at a certain point, it does feel like if you didn't get the part, there's something wrong with you. And it takes a lot of practice to release that. If you receive a no, they're just giving a yes to something else. It doesn't mean no because you're this. It means, yes, we wanted this. Also, when we need the other thing, we'll come calling, right? Like you have to believe in the collateral of good work. And if you keep doing good work, someone will remember that and come back to you when you are right for the project that they're doing.
It's true. You're on people's minds. And that's all Russell Crowe told me, and I tell this story all the time. Russell Crowe told me that actors are professional auditioners. And we only take a break from auditioning when we get a role.
Oh yeah.
A brilliant statement.
Absolutely. We're going back to South by Southwest this year and supporting some wonderful projects and excited to be back in the mix. I'm about to have to change my flight because I just got 2 auditions. Like that's the equipment I'm going to use to tape it. That is what the life is. When you're not doing a role, you are auditioning, and you are auditioning more than you're doing anything else.
Are you good at auditioning?
Yes. Now, I was not always. Auditioning, I had a professor in college who was like, Britt, you are so talented, and I love the work that you do in class, and that is why you keep getting cast as leads in these shows. But I gotta tell you, it's not because of your audition. And it was always the initial audition, where you had to memorize a contrasting monologue for like a minute of this and a minute of that. There was something about that first round of auditioning that crushed my confidence. I wasn't showing up fully. And then when I got a call back, it was like someone gave me permission because now I have a callback. So I would really show up in the callbacks and nail it and get the part. Or they knew my body of work, right? So they knew that was inside of me. But she's like, people aren't going to know you when you go out into the professional world. So you've got to get to the bottom of what this thing is about needing permission to show up. And so that was, and I didn't get it I didn't start booking until I started to get it. And it was really me taking ownership of my space and realizing that if I had an audition, it was not like taking the SATs. It's not about trying to find the right answer. It's about using my creativity and taking up the space. And that's it. And then leaving it on the mat and walking away. And if that's what they want, it's what they want. But the real takeaway for me is getting to experience doing the work that I want to do, which helps me with the next audition. Booking the part isn't what helps me with the next audition. It's how I show up for the last audition that helps me with the next audition, right? Yeah. And it took me a while to figure that out. And then we throw in that self-taping started because it used to be live in the room. So it was a whole nother round of getting past thinking that the self-tape was about how everything looked and sounded and all these things. It was like another set of math problems to solve. And it was easy to think, oh, that's how I'm going to solve this problem. And it's like, no, man, it always comes back to presence, work ethic, and showing up fully as the creative person that you are.
In coming to California, and here you are, from Alabama, fresh here. What did you go into modeling at first? Did you wait on tables? What were the jobs that you had to support your life?
Yeah, Oh, wow. What a great question. It's like, I'm having so many images come back to me of all of this. I landed and was like, hello.
Mhm.
I did, I bought some books about how to be an actor. I tried to get in touch with alumni who had short stints in California. I interviewed everyone and I tried to figure out, what classes they took and where they went. And like my learning curve was so steep. I mean, you know how big UTA is as an agency, right? They like UTA, okay? I walked into UTA with my headshot and resume and walked right up to the receptionist desk and was like, "Hi, drop off my headshot and resume," because I'd read about them in a Samuel French book I got at the bookshop that said like these are the agencies in LA. I didn't know who was who and what was what. They're like IMDb didn't, I wasn't like looking, I didn't know. So the receptionist just laughed at me and she was like, "Oh, honey, we don't do that here." It's like, oh, okay.
I think people who go to college for theater and cinema and television and all that, they get the nuts and bolts training, but there is
Mhm.
nothing that beats being on set and watching what's going. What an education that is.
Absolutely. It's you start to pick up on everything. It's an immersive experience because at that point it's not just about hypothetical acting and what do you bring to the table. It's like how do you interact with the PAs? Like what, like who are you talking to? What's the gaffer doing? And like your stand-in who's being so, they're of course they're getting paid to do their job, but they're incredible people and they're usually wonderful actors in their own right. It's just really starting to pay attention to who's doing what job, and that's where I started to feel more confident. And I think the reason it took me so long to make something myself is because of what we talked about with theater. I felt so confident knowing everyone's job in theater, having done it, being able to respect it. And then showing up on a TV and film set, I was like, oh my gosh, who are all these people? What is everybody doing? How do I make sure that I understand how this is functioning so I can be the most valuable, impactful part of this process? And that's when I started to really feel that, was after I'd been on so many great sets and I'd been able to absorb it. And then I felt the confidence to think, yeah, I think Michael and I can create one of these sets. I think we could be these people and hire more people and create a collaborative experience that could be really positive.
And now that you've got Pretty Problems under your belt, and boy, it was such a successful film festival film. I mean, everybody loved it. And of course, South by Southwest was amazing for you. Uh, are you working on on another movie? Are you directing?
So I'm working on a script right now that I'm hoping to direct, which is really exciting. And it's been such a unique experience to be writing it while thinking about also directing it, because I feel like directing is the last piece of the puzzle that was in my theater life. I directed, I loved directing. But again, coming into TV and film, I thought I can't be the director. I don't even understand what everyone does yet. So I am newly stepping into the confidence that I do know what I'm doing, and I'm excited to be a uniting voice between the different departments to create this vision. And I definitely feel like I have a strong passion for creating positive workspaces. I get really excited to be able to have a say in the kind of energy that we bring people into. So I'm working on that script. I'm very excited about it. And then Michael and I are also working on another script. So we got two in the kitchen.
I said you were busy. Do you get starstruck?
Oh my gosh. Yes, absolutely. I got so starstruck with Octavia Spencer
Oh,
on the set of Instant Family. She's from Alabama. She's like hometown hero to me. I loved her in The Help, and then watching her rise and like all these things. And I walked right out. I was like, okay, so we were working on different days, but we had this courtroom scene together. And I was like, I'm gonna walk up to her, I'm gonna introduce myself. Like, this is gonna be so great. It was so awkward. I just froze. I was like, hi, I'm also from Alabama. And she was like, okay.
Okay,
That's
crazy.
great. She was so patient and so sweet about it. But it's like, it's funny because I didn't feel that way with a lot, like Rose Byrne and I connected right away. Mark Wahlberg also, first time I met him was on set in a scene, but like we had an acting moment that we shared. There's a lot of celebrities I've met, but man, Octavia Spencer, I turned into a little girl. I just had so much admiration
Good.
for her.
I'm glad you do that, because that's amazing. There are people that act like they don't care.
Oh my gosh. Oh no, it's amazing. Just working on Pain Hustlers. I mean, of course I was a little bit starstruck with Emily Blunt. She's so warm that it was like it dissolved immediately because she just holds a space in that way. And I think that's the key too, is having a direct scene together makes a difference. But introducing yourself on set outside of a scene, that's where it can sometimes be a little trickier.
This portion of Screen Chatter is presented by VP Dental. Check out our great dental plans starting at just $16 per month.
It's taken me a long time to feel like I can wear as many hats as I've started to wear, because it was really important to me that I had a deep respect for the entire ecosystem of the film community. And I think I'm ready. And once I go there, I feel like the great joy for me will be continuing to feel out what is the right role to have in each project. I want to keep producing. I want to direct, and I'm definitely going to keep writing, and acting is my first and greatest love. So to me, if you're describing my dream life, every single one of those things is in it.